it.
Welcome to Retrained Search, the podcast, where we lift the lid on what it's really like to work retained, discuss the stories we've gathered along the way, and give you all a peek behind the scenes of our amazing community and how they're getting ahead. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Retained Search show. Yes,
You still haven't
nailed it.
Worked out the title. No.
Hello, Sarah Chester Nelson.
Hello. Thank you for having me on again. I feel like it's been a while.
It's been a while, and lots has been happening. There's a reason we brought you here today. How are you doing, Jord?
Very well. Very, very well, thank you.
I'm a bit frightened of your transition to paddle away from tennis. That can be talked about another day. But
happy.
As my tennis advisor and coach and role model, I'm frightened of losing you.
I'm just diversifying. I'm staying ahead of the times, and I'm making sure I have the experience and the knowledge to guide you through your paddle journey as well as your tennis journey.
We don't have any paddle courts in Ludlow. If anyone's listening to this and you happen to have a spare 40 grand, apparently that's all it costs to set up a paddle court. Can you please buy some land in Ludlow and build a paddle court?
And if you own a tennis club in Ludlow, there's great funding available, I'm told, from the LTA.
That makes sense. Why
they will effectively fund the paddle courts, and then I think you just pay them a percentage of your money each year to pay them back. So.
Long story. Let's move on. Talking of evolution, we have been fizzing behind the scenes at Retrained because we've got separate WhatsApp groups, and we've got external but joint venture partners working with us, and an absolute hive of activity because of 2 letters that you can't really read anything or go anywhere without seeing at the moment. And what are those 2 letters, Sarah Chester Nelson?
I'm going to hazard a guess. It's A-N-I. AI.
Yes. Oh, yes. And we're lucky enough, we're being behind the scenes, and maybe not so much behind the scenes, but integrated into and plugged into such a phenomenal community of small, medium and large agencies and retained and executive search firms across the board, across the world, across industries. So there's 350 in our Search Foundations program, there's 50 odd in our Search Mastery program, and there's RMA, Sarah?
80.
80 in our Retrained Marketing program. That's a lot. That's a lot of businesses that we're working with and privy to. That we experience the shift and the evolution of AI in our industry firsthand in so many different contexts. So we wanted to share a bit of that with you today. We wanted to share how agencies, search firms, executive and non, are adopting it, using it to get ahead and make their lives easier. And we also wanted to share our own experiences of what is working for us and how we're finding it making life better, as Jordan just said just before we hit record. So it's not been a straightforward journey, though, and I think the 3 of us have had very different experiences so far on the journey with AI. I'm going to start with you, Jord.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about kind of your journey with it so far and where you were and where you are now.
So I think probably at the start when I first started using it, ChatGPT is the main kind of tool that I use when it comes to AI. I probably just used it like Google on steroids. So I was like, so a prime example would be, I think my 2-year-old daughter is drinking too much milk. So I'm going to ask her how much should she be drinking? And then it says, do you want me to create a custom milk plan for your daughter? And I'm like, this is great.
Why not?
It's like Google on steroids.
Yeah.
The more I've used it, the more comfortable I've become with it, the more I appreciate the value that it can add. And I would say it's now transformed what I do on a day-to-day basis, because I don't think it's doing anything that I couldn't do, but it's doing it more effectively, more efficiently, and actually, just in terms of kind of my personal day-to-day work, it means that I'm not doing the stuff that I don't enjoy doing. It does it for me. The example I gave to Sarah last week is building out a list of potential prospects for us, right, for our business. That would take me hours in the past. And that like heavy research data, it's just not what, as you know, I am not particularly detail focused. It's just not what I enjoy doing. I gave ChatGPT a prompt to act as my kind of personal research team, and to ask me a list of questions one by one that's going to help it identify my perfect prospect, and then go away and build me a list of 100 of the best companies that meet that criteria. I had it done in like an hour.
I love that. That is one of my favorite things to ask it, to ask it to interview me, to ask it to ask me the questions, that to get the information it needs to be able to perform the task. I think
So
that's
it's just
brilliant.
like, it's, as I say, I could have put that list together myself. I'm sure I could to an extent, but I probably couldn't have done it as well. It would have taken me days, I think, to do the depth of research needed to make sure they were all as relevant as they could be. And ChatGPT did it in 10 minutes.
Thank you, Jord. Sarah, I have to ask this because I don't know the answer.
Oh, yeah.
You guys, you and Jord, while I was away on holiday, came up with, or something transpired, whereby you now are running a session with, I think it's open to external members. It's not closed to our community, on how to leveraging AI for BD.
It all started with Starbucks, didn't it, Sarah?
I know. I think that it just means you need more meetings in Starbucks. But yeah, I think it was you that told me about what you were doing with it. And I was like, okay, that's interesting, because yes, I had been doing forms of like using ChatGPT to research, but I am a bit of a geek. And, you know, I hopped onto AI and ChatGPT as soon as it came out. But for me, it was quite refreshing or interesting to hear someone else from like not a techie background say, oh, actually, I went to ChatGPT and I did this with it. I was like, okay. And then we had one of the reasons we were meeting was we wanted to review some of the stats that we had as a business, and like why
it was our marketing stuff, wasn't it? And like what makes our calls spike and all stuff like that we were reviewing.
Yeah. And we can have a look, and we had this spreadsheet that we've been filling out every week, and had all this stuff, and we both looked at it and we're like, shall we just put it into ChatGPT and see if it'll tell us like stuff? And anyway, we put it in not thinking like we wasn't really sure what we were going to get out of it, but it kind of changed everything, because it told us, it could just pick out the patterns so much easier than us. It could tell us why specific week we did well over others, and it wasn't just like, oh well, that week is great, but it worked out, okay, the reason was because a couple of weeks ago you did this, because it connected all of our KPIs, all of the things that we're doing with the result. And it made something that would have took me a whole day to unpick. We did it in like 40 minutes, didn't we? Just together, kind of working out, like, oh, why don't we ask it this and that? And that's when we were like, right, okay, actually, I think it would make sense, like, because we've used it from a BD point of view and just the research side as well. Like, it makes sense to do a webinar on this.
So what kind of things are you going to be sharing and showing through that, without giving too much away, because people can join that session, can't they? And I think we'll be sharing maybe with this podcast when that session is. But what are the
next Thursday? So Thursday the 18th, 1 p.m. UK time.
And what kind of things are you going to be sharing then on that session?
So firstly, I guess we're going to be talking about how it benefits search or retained work. I think one of the things that I have constantly got at the minute is people telling, like, it's like the same thing that happened with automation. So when automation came out, I love automation. I can automate so many different things. Thing is, everyone else then starts automating stuff, and then you realize that it's automated, and people go to the nth degree with automation. And it's kind of the same with AI. Like, just because we can now personalize and send loads of emails at scale and mass send these emails and target so many different people on LinkedIn doesn't necessarily mean that's what we should be doing with it. So we have got a shortlist approach. So based on the book that we absolutely adore as a community at the moment, shortlist by David Eckhart. Yeah, where we will show kind of how exactly what Jord was just showing there, like how do we build a list of people to target? How do we get people that fit within our core target audience, and we spend less time on kind of the research and the putting the campaigns together, and more time on the human touch element. So yes, we can use AI to help us with these things, help us target people, help us craft messaging, but ultimately what's going to push the needle, get people to want to speak to us, is us, and that human element, which we don't want to replicate, or we don't want AI to take over with that.
I think we're conscious that we're really busy, right? And what we hope is we're not going to give any wishy-washy shit
on
the session. Like, we're going to give implementable advice, how people can take a BD process, implement AI, and make it more effective, more efficient, and more successful.
And we could go super complex with, the likes of tools like Clay, where we can build a massive list, and we can then get everyone's email addresses, and then we can use a variable and personalize it and send them all out. But if we just want to get responses, and we know with search, like, we actually don't need a crazy amount of retained searches to do very well. So rather than going at scale and having such a small percentage response rate, we turn the tables, we go the other way. Like, how do we have like a list of like maximum 100 contacts, and we go after them and use AI to help us to build those relationships with those people that we know are relevant as well.
And in terms of the people we work with, then the different firms, individuals, independent recruiters and individuals from bigger teams, what do you see? I won't say, as kind of best practice or the best use of AI, because everyone's just on their own journey. I think everyone's just at different stages with it, aren't they? And what do you see as a kind of the early adopters doing now, those that are kind of at the forefront of using AI and the latest tools, and what do you see from those that are kind of later adopters and just starting to, as you say, Jord, use ChatGPT as a Google engine? Like, could you share with us, Sarah, do you see people using it in quite an advanced way? And if you do, what kinds of things are you either helping them to do, or are they doing themselves that you think, wow, that's really, really good?
Well, yeah, I think it's one of those things where I like to keep on top of this stuff, but it's funny the amount of times people come to a collab call and they show me something they've managed to do with ChatGPT, and I'm like, I didn't know I could do that. That's so cool. I like, things are changing so often as well. But I think where people, I've seen the best success is when people use ChatGPT, exactly what you said before about like, ask me questions to understand my target audience, my core demographics. Like, once it's got all of that information about you as a business, as like who you are, like, and you can feed it all of that stuff as well, that helps. Like, the one thing I absolutely love is people using call recordings and transcripts. Like, as much information we can give of us just means that the outputs you get are so much more tailored. And it's when people really understand that and kind of almost make a custom GPT. So a ChatGPT that knows what its role is, like what its target is, how it's meant to act. Like every time you talk to it, those are the people who kind of excel with it, rather than just using ChatGPT, as Jord said, as kind of Google, it not knowing the context of you and who you are, though. Like it is going to give you quite generic advice. So sometimes I understand, you know, I get the same thing quite often. People say, oh, I tried ChatGPT to help me with content, but it just sounded, you know, very AI. And I get that. I do get that. And I see it on LinkedIn all the time. You're like, oh, those M dashes, I know it's ChatGPT. But again, it's like the more stuff you can give it, the better stuff the output. So, and I think you've realized this as well. Like once, it takes a bit of time at the start, doesn't it? But like with any like employee, like when you first have someone start with you, they don't automatically know your brand values and all of like like little things that kind of make the business hit what it is. Like you have to teach them and train them and spend time with them. But once you've done that with ChatGPT, it then gets it. And once you've done that legwork, the outputs you get, I think, is quite incredible.
One of the things I've noticed is that as I've got more confident and more knowledgeable and more experience of working with, you know, the one we use, ChatGPT Pro, I think it is, that the more multi-dimensional its support can be, like across a whole kind of chain of I keep hearing this word workflow, and I guess that's just a label for, you know, things that you've got to do that are all related to the other to get to an outcome, right? I'm assuming. Because to begin with, I was quite one-dimensional with it, you know, asking it to do a single thing, and, or can you help me with this? And then I got better at feeding it more information before I asked it to do things, and then just continuously feeding, you know, really detailed information, and knowing which kind of model to use, or whether I wanted to use deep research. You know, Annette, our finance manager, and I have just done a really nice piece analysing all of our P&Ls over the last tax year and all of our cash flow situation, and it's built a dashboard for us. You know, wait till you see it. You're going to see it at the 90-day meeting, guys. But the deep research section of that took a while, but because the spreadsheets were ridiculously complicated, to getting to the stage where now it's not just one piece of a workflow that it can help with. Like when we're writing content for our programs, for example, or, you know, all of our programs, for those that don't know and that aren't members that are listening to this, are iterative and are constantly evolving. So we're constantly, every time a new tactic or new technique is working and is the latest, then we feed it in and there's a playbook built, and so our stuff doesn't stand still. Prior to using AI to help us with that, that's like a lot of work, because we've got to work out what all those components are, how to write the playbook, how to publish it, how to make it easy for the learner to digest and pick up all the pieces that they need. Using a trained prompt that can pick up each one of those elements, like, okay, give me this and this to be able to break this down for me, and then they break it all down, and then now section it into these sections, and now this section. It just makes it so much to do the whole thing, from digesting the content of what we need to be able to share, to breaking it down into stages, to be able to then publish it in a way that's easy to learn, is, I think, amazing. And then what blows my mind is the people that are kind of next stage of this, you know, using more of the agents, and like that is all a little bit new to me. You've tell us about what you've been doing.
So one of the things is, so you've got a meeting, like you're going to London in a couple of weeks, and you said, oh, I'm going, you know, I've got this event on, it'd be great to do some meetings. And when we've done meetings in London before, like we're not based in London, so it's not an area that we really know, but also London is massive. And so, you know, you'll talk to a Londoner and they'll tell you like, oh, to get from A to B for certain places, it's just like, it would take you ages. So I was like, okay, well, I can't just, normally I would just go into our CRM system, which we use as HubSpot, and search for anyone that we've tagged as London. And then I'd either mass send an email to them and say, oh, we're in the area. But then what has transpired before is people go, well, actually, that's so far away from me. But there's just hasn't been another way I can, work it out. Even with postcodes, like, again, people have told me, it's very complex that how you can get to certain places. So anyway, I went to the ChatGPT and the agent, and I just said, look, we've got some time in London, like this is the event location, but we want to do some meetings, like either before or after. Please can you have a look in our HubSpot and see if we have any companies in that area? And I was like super specific, like, we want to be able to walk there, or it needs to be a really short taxi ride. Like we don't, it can't be on the other side of London. And yeah, it went into our HubSpot and took a few minutes, but it came up with all of the people in there. But then what was funny was I wasn't specific enough with companies, but it remembered that I had been doing stuff very much to do with search firms. So it just focused on search firms. So when I sent it to you, you were like, these are a bit too executive searchy. I want,
I want the people earlier in that journey.
Yeah, exactly. I want permanent recruitment people. So I was like, okay. So I literally just copied and pasted what you said to me and said, these are a bit exec searchy. Can you find me people that are like contingent recruitment firms that are primarily perm? So off it went again, back into HubSpot, found me more people. And then I was like, okay, this is great, but can you have a look outside of HubSpot as well to see if we're missing anyone? It did that. Obviously, ChatGPT just likes to just go the extra mile, and it started qualifying them for me as well and tell me who would be a really good fit based on what it's found out. And then I asked it, like, can you just check that the addresses are correct as well, and maybe tell me the managing director, like the best person to go and reach out to as well. So it did all of that for me. All I had to do was log into HubSpot for it, and it went and did that for me.
And one of the things that there was a couple of things that's really stood out for me this week in my dealings with our I suppose my network and our membership, our community, is I had a conversation with a very, very experienced, very senior board advisor to the executive search industry, to one of the Shrek firms in particular, but with broad experience across super senior executive search and sits on several boards. And this person's approach, when I asked about the AI, how AI was being adopted and approached within these firms, was that it didn't fit with their GDPR legislation or restrictions, and that senior clients and candidates won't have conversations where note takers are present, and that AI is not suitable for retained executive search, because senior leaders and won't engage with AI in any form or generated content. I mean, I was absolutely staggered, firstly, and I didn't quite know what to say. I think I just smiled and nodded. But what is your thought on that, either one of you?
Well, it just reminds me of way back when people said the internet wouldn't change anything. Internet. You've got to adapt, haven't you? Right, it's coming or not, so.
Are you enjoying this so far? Don't miss a single episode. Hit the subscribe button right now so you can be part of the conversation that's shaping the future of recruitment. So we dive really deep into the strategies, the stories, and the truth about retained search. So if you want to hear more about it, or you know someone else that needs to hear this, then share it with them. Right, let's get back to the good stuff.
Yeah, and the other thing that surprises me about that is because a lot of the firms that we work with are smaller, right? They're boutique. From an executive search perspective, in the Mastery Group are smaller search firms, and they are competing and winning against these big executive search firms. That's the first thing to note, right? And the second thing to note is I can't think of an exception to this. They are all using AI, probably moderate adoption to high level adoption. In fact, I think that some of them are the most advanced in their adoption of AI through workflows and agents and processes. And it is only enhancing what they do for their clients and their candidates, not breaching legislation or alienating senior leaders in any way.
I totally get why big search firms will push back against AI, because I think it allows smaller, more agile firms to compete in areas where they couldn't previously.
Yeah.
And one example of that came up in one of my collab calls the other day, right? In that we know some of these big search firms, the big Shrek firms, right? One of the things that they do that a lot of more boutique firms can't is they'll produce 20, 30-page glossy reports at the end of a search. They can do that. They can do that because they've got these big research teams and they've got the manpower.
Cambridge research grads, yeah.
Exactly. And I don't think that's necessarily needed. I don't think it's always what the customer wants anyway, right? But now, as long as we're collating the right data during the search, which boutique search firms doing a proper job in delivery are collating the data, I can produce that report in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I understand how to push back against it, because all of a sudden we can now compete in those areas too.
Yeah, I agree. And also the other reason is, I think it's convenient. It's a convenient narrative, isn't it, to say that, no, this breaches GDPR and we don't use AI because it alienates candidates. And so therefore, we remain at the forefront. But actually behind the scenes, their processes and their internal bureaucracy and red tape and policies aren't enabled yet and haven't advanced enough to be able to adopt it as quickly as the smaller firms. And so there's got to be a narrative behind that, hasn't there? So it's convenient to use that with a client and say, it's dangerous, and okay, that's fine. But actually the smaller firms have never been in a better position to be able to take market share and to be able to do things that they have previously never been able to do. And I'm excited about that. Like, we go into our Search Mastery event next week, and oh my God, some of the stuff that I know is going to be shared and is going to be talked about, and the screen and the cable's going to be going around the room, I know, all day for 2 days. Like, oh, show us how you're doing that. Yeah, cool. Okay, plug in. Right, this is how I'm doing this. From iterative generation of scorecard and candidate assessments from the briefing meeting transcript calls to the objective and unbiased assessment of candidates from the transcripts of calls, and then the assessment criterias, and pulling in the tactics of all the psychometric and behavioral profiling tools, through to the actual workflows of the search process itself, and how to streamline that and make it more efficient and more effective, so the human can be more involved at the most crucial stages, not taking away from the human what we do best, which is reading between the lines and reading emotions and seeing the things that AI doesn't see, but giving us superpowers in that area, because we're not bogged down with all the other crap that we've been bogged down with for years. Like, all of that, I can't wait to be just advanced more, shared, and then advanced more through the group of people that it will be. And I'm excited about the opportunity for smaller businesses to really excel where the bigger businesses are stalling and slowing on it. And so I think it's a fantastic time to be alive. That's what I say.
Yeah, me too. I'm sure Jordan would agree, because you have to do less and less admin now because of it.
Less and less admin. And Gia has got the perfect milk schedule.
Yeah. And I've got my own personal tennis mindset
I
coach,
was
which I've
going to
always
say, like,
we
we
also
haven't
did
mentioned the personal aspects of
Yeah.
ChatGPT, but that is such a great, you know, someone's always like saying like, oh, I don't know where I'd use it. Like, honestly, get people using it for stuff in their personal life first. So that's how my husband got into it, because he 12 months ago was saying to me, oh, I don't know about this AI stuff. It's going to take all our jobs and all of this. And I got him onto ChatGPT. I just said, look, just have a go. And then he made it become like a personal trainer for him that understands that he's vegan and what he needs to do. And he's given it all his biometrics, and now he's obsessed. I can't get him off ChatGPT. And you're saying with tennis coach, I have a weightlifting coach as well.
It's funny how people just don't understand what it can do, isn't it? So my uncle was made redundant this week. He's a project manager for a big Liverpool-based like building contractor, and he's like 62, right? He's got 3 years left before he retires. And he's like in a bit of a bad place because he can't believe he's been made redundant when he's getting close to retirement, right? And I was like, he's not done a CV in 30 years. Right. And I was like, listen, when you're back next week, come, I'll sort your CV for you. And he's like, are you sure it's going to take hours? I'm like, it's not, mate. It's going to take me about 7 minutes.
Yeah, and my daughter Emily, who you both know well, because she's spent some time helping out with behind the scenes of the marketing team and a few other bits and pieces, has been constantly chipping away at finding her ideal career, as you do when you're 18. You know, you feel under such pressure, don't you, to find your thing. You know, I think it's so hard, isn't it, for teenagers today? Anyway, and she's just been constantly looking. She found this. She's been applying to jobs in equine nutrition because that's the kind of field that she wants to be something horsey, but she likes sales, marketing. She's quite commercial as well. Like she must have got that from me. She does like money. Let's just say that.
Which is important if you want to be into horses.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Which is a hobby.
Yeah, totally. And so I said, well, when you get time, why don't we sit down and I'll see if I can help you, because I'm like, surely to God I can help her. But she's been doing it all on her own. So we sat down and I said, and I'm applying for these jobs, right? Show me your application, show me the CV. And I'm looking at it thinking, there's massive room for improvement. The CV's not tailored to the job description, to the advert. The cover letter's not tailored enough. You've done so much more than you think you have here, and you've got so much more you can talk about. So straight away, set up a custom GPT. You're going to be Emily's job application assistant. Ask Emily all the questions you need to know to build the best profile to suit, firstly, as an example, this position, right? And then from now on, I want you to build me a custom GPT that will become that for Emily for every single job that she sees. And we did, and it just started asking questions. Tell me about what you did at school. Tell me what results you got. Tell me what you did after school. Did you work while you were at school? And it built the CV from scratch, right? And then it said, what tools did you use and what CRM system were you using? And it pulled every single thing out. And then the CV was perfect. And then, okay, here's the job. And then it tailored the CV perfectly to the job. And now she's got that forever on her desktop. She got the job. She got what is the perfect start, e-commerce administrator for a retailer of equine equipment. It's like happy days. And she gets loads of free shit, which she's well happy with. So all the personal stuff can be a starting point.
She can't be horsing around in that job.
Oh.
Sorry.
But it makes me think, like, I want every teenager in the world to have that. You know, I want every teenager to have like their own assistant to help them pull out their experiences and tailor their application every time.
Isn't that interesting as well? Because we've not lied about anything. Like it's literally asked Emily questions and she's just answered those questions. Because if you think about it, sometimes when you write a CV, like one, you forget some of the things, and like also it depends on people's mentality, but some people are really super confident and will talk about everything that they've done, and other people aren't. And so, you know, it comes across in the way we write sometimes. So the fact that like this takes the stuff that Emily knows about, has had experience with, and puts it together is...
Well, she totally missed out a section where all the way through school, all the way through GCSE, she's worked on a livery yard at the weekends and been paid to look after, okay, and what were you doing? And were you advising on turning out and turning in? And then were you reporting back on the behaviour? And she's like, yeah, Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, there's a whole section of 2 years worth of experience of advising, reporting back, of using equipment that wasn't even on there before. It's like, but it's there. We just weren't talking about it. And you think, how many people apply for a job that have either missed out or overlooked, especially if you're, like Jord said, you're in a redundancy situation and you're not really, you're not your best self. You're not putting your best self forward because you're feeling on the back foot. So, you know, when you take those things and apply it to your business, I read the AI Leadership by Jeff Woods while I was on holiday. And the way that it helps you to do a strategic review on your business, well, you guys, we've been talking about it on our leadership meetings, and you're like, oh my God, that's good. This retained readiness audit is just genius. And we're building that at the moment for you, by the way, those of you listening that don't know.
That's my idea.
Oh, that's your idea, Jord. Yeah, of course. Back to Jeff Wood's AI Leadership. Excellent book. Gets you to answer one question at a time, and it basically takes you through a full strategic review of your business, identifies the weaknesses, the strengths, the gaps, and suggests how to improve your strategy moving forward. It's such a simple thing, but if you didn't know how to do that, you wouldn't do it. And it's literally there at your fingertips, waiting for you to explore. So I guess to close out today, what would be, if it's something that I think the vast majority of people are in the kind of middle ground of, they're using ChatGPT a little bit like a search engine, or, you know, asking it questions, or polish this email, or create me a bit of content. And what would be your tips for advancing to the next stage? I've got to ask you, Sarah, as our tech savvy specialist.
Well, a couple of things really. So if we're just focusing on getting a tool like ChatGPT or Claude, Copilot, whatever, to create us the results that we want with not too much back and forth, like the first thing would be the import, like making sure that we import stuff, but also just really simply, like if you know what you want to achieve, but you don't know how to do it, just ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT is the best person to ask in this situation. Like if you know the end goal, for example, you know, with Jordan and finding qualified prospects, you know, he could say to it, look, I want to find 10 companies to reach out to who are relevant to my target audience. Please, can you ask me some questions and can you guide me on how best to do this? And that's where it will start asking you the questions just to make sure that it fills in the gaps properly. And then it will go and do it, or it will say, let's create a custom GPT. And again, I can't remember who told me that, but I think it was Larry Hernandez, who helps me a lot with AI stuff. Like he's an absolute genius with it as well. He was saying he has a custom GPT to create custom GPTs.
Yes, because, I love that.
I was like, that's amazing.
I love that.
I love custom GPTs because they do cut out a lot of the legwork, but I was like, it just takes a bit of time to set them up though, doesn't it? Because you do have to input stuff and, you know, give it all of this stuff. And he was like, yeah, but I've got a custom GPT to help me create custom GPTs. And I was like, of course you do. So that is one thing. And then the other thing is, I've had a couple of people, or a few people say to me, like, it just doesn't sound like me. And like when I use it, like to create content, it just starts like going, like it just, it doesn't sound like me. The best thing to do, or what's worked really well for me and other members, is if you know what you want to write about, or an email, or you've got a topic, say you've just come off a call with someone and it would spark a really good idea, just get on Loom or get on Zoom, record yourself just talking about that thing for about 5 minutes. Like, you know, just had this call with this person and it brought up a really good point about this, and like it made me think about this, and just talk about it how you would. And then stop that recording, take the transcript, which is super easy if you use something like Loom, get that transcript, pop it into ChatGPT and just say, this is a brain dump from me. Please, can you help me create an email, a LinkedIn post, whatever it is that you want to do. And I want it to sound how I sound.
Great.
And it just makes it sound so much like you. And the more you do that, the more it will get that naturally. But I have found like you can speak into ChatGPT as well. Like that's, that's an option as well. So don't feel, you did make me laugh. So I saw Jord the other day, and he was watching me just put something into ChatGPT, and he goes, I didn't realize that you could just keep all the typos in.
The amount of time I spend going, typo, I need to change that. So I was like, no, if it'll do deep research for you, it'll figure out your typo.
I think it'll work. It works out what you're trying to say. So don't worry about don't worry about having it perfect, or what I do quite a lot of the time with ChatGPT is I use it on my phone and just microphone and then talk and tell it what I want to know.
Such good tips. Enjoy, everyone. Hope today's been helpful, and thank you very much, Jord, as always. Sarah, a joy, a delight to have you on. Please save up all your tips and share them with us on our next episode that you're with us.
Whenever that might be. Thursday. We're going to see all of you on Thursday, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. Shall we put a link in the show notes or something?
Link in the comments to join the BDAI session on Thursday the 18th. Don't miss it. Well, that's another episode of Retrain Search, the podcast in the bag. Thanks for listening to our wild tales, LinkedIn controversies, and our top tips on how to sell and deliver retained search. Get involved in our next episode. Send in your questions and share your experiences with us by emailing podcast@retrainedsearch.com. And don't be shy. Connect with us on LinkedIn and come and say hi. We don't bite. Unless you're a Shrek firm, that is. We want to say a special thank you to our retrained members for sharing what's working for them right now and innovating new ways to grow and evolve. It's an incredible community. If you're wondering what exactly we mean when we mention our communities, well, we have two separate programs. Our Search Foundations program is for recruiters who want to learn how to sell and deliver retained search solutions consistently. And we have our Search Mastery program. That's for business leaders or owners already at 50% retained or more and looking to scale and grow and structure their search firm. We cap memberships to these programs to protect the integrity of the community. If you want access, just talk to us. Okay, thanks for listening. We'll be back very soon with another episode of Retrain Search, the podcast.